A major stretch of severe weather is building across the United States, and this storm just took a strange turn that I need to walk you through because the setup has shifted in some surprising ways over the last 24 hours. What looked like a fairly straightforward severe weather week has become something much more complicated and in some ways much more concerning. The first round of storms will develop across the southern plains and Midwest today and tomorrow, but honestly, today has a lot of question marks that I want to be upfront about. The real story here is Tuesday and Wednesday, which are shaping up to be the highest ceiling severe weather days of this entire stretch. And then on top of all of that, Friday is already looking like another dangerous day before we even get through the first half of the week. This severe weather train is not stopping anytime soon. So let me walk you through all of it, day by day, with full transparency about where we have confidence and where we do not, because I think that honesty is more useful to you than pretending everything is locked in when it is not. Let us start with today, because today has taken the strangest turn of all. On paper, we have a slight risk of severe weather from Dallas-Fort Worth, back toward the Mexico and Texas border, and a marginal risk from central Kansas down to Houston. There's also a marginal risk up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and a small sliver of Michigan, and another marginal threat over in the Pacific Northwest. So, looking at the risk categories on paper, it looks like a fairly active day. But here's the honest truth about today. Morning convection has dominated the atmosphere across a large portion of the risk area, and that could end up completely suppressing storm development this afternoon and evening. There is a very real possibility that we see zero significant storm activity from Iowa into Texas today. I want to be direct about that because it matters for how you plan your day. The reason for this uncertainty comes down to the dry line setup across Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. If you look at the dew points in western Oklahoma right now, they are sitting in the low 60s. But if you go about 50 miles to the west, the dew points only drop to around the 20s. That is not a sharp enough decrease to produce a well-defined aggressive dry line that forces storm initiation. This dry line is fairly weak for this time of year, and that means the forcing needed to fire supercells this afternoon is questionable. On top of that, as you go up through the atmosphere, the temperature is not decreasing rapidly enough. Our lapse rates are low. There's a cap in place in the lower levels, and that cap could prevent storms from firing entirely across Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas this afternoon. That said, if morning convection clears fast enough and forcing allows a supercell to form and sustain an updraft, our main severe weather window today is from about 5 until 9 p.m. across Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. If one of those supercells fires, the significant tornado parameter values across this region are elevated, running between 1 and 4 from Wisconsin and Michigan all the way down into Texas. The atmosphere is loaded and supportive of tornadoes if convection can actually get going. Very large hail exceeding 2 inches in diameter is possible, with any storm that does develop from Wichita, Kansas, down through Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Dallas, and San Antonio. So protect your vehicle today, even with the uncertainty, because if a storm does go up, it will be significant. Up near Duluth, Minnesota, there is an isolated large hail and damaging wind risk if a supercell gets going anytime from 11 a.m. through about 7 tonight. The headline for today is Honest Uncertainty, and I would rather you understand that now than be surprised later. Monday is where my confidence increases significantly, and where I have a lot more certainty that we are actually going to see supercell thunderstorms develop. The dry line on Monday is going to be noticeably sharper than today, running from Kansas City down into North Texas near Wichita Falls. That sharper boundary provides the forcing that was missing today. We also have a warm frontal boundary set up across the Midwest, where a lot of storms are going to fire off to the east of the surface low pressure system. The slight risk on Monday covers Minneapolis and Milwaukee, and Chicago is also in a level 1 marginal risk. There's a second slight risk area from Oklahoma City back down toward Abilene, Texas. The hail threat on Monday is going to be elevated, and I really want to emphasize this. If you live near Minneapolis or Warsaw, Wisconsin, we are talking about hail potentially as large as 3 inches in diameter, which is the size of an apple. That is a destructive hail event for anything left outside. Down in Oklahoma and Texas, we are looking at golf ball-sized hail as the primary threat. The timing on Monday shows supercells beginning to fire around 3 to 4 p.m. back near Minneapolis. These storms are going to quickly upscale into a cluster of thunderstorms producing very large hail, damaging winds, and if any storm can latch onto that warm frontal boundary, there is a real possibility of a strong tornado near Milwaukee and just south of Minneapolis near Owatonna. If you are commuting in the Minneapolis or Warsaw corridor on Monday evening, have your weather app open and stay tuned to our live stream because we will likely be live covering this event. The tornado threat on Monday is conditional on where storms fire relative to the boundary, but the hail threat is not conditional at all. The hail is coming regardless of where the storms go. Now, Tuesday is the day that concerns me the most out of this entire stretch. And I want to explain exactly why. Because the setup on Tuesday is genuinely unusual. We have enormous wind shear in the atmosphere on Tuesday, combined with a very favorable moisture profile and the possibility of discrete rotating supercells firing across parts of the Midwest and back into the southern plains. When you have that combination, high wind shear, good moisture, and discrete storm mode, you are talking about a high-ceiling severe weather event. The storm prediction. Center currently has this as a slight risk, but I would anticipate that gets upgraded to an enhanced risk in future outlooks as long as the models continue trending the direction they have been. The European model, in particular, has been advertising a very significant setup on Tuesday, and that is worth paying attention to. The timing on Tuesday starts early, around 1 to 3 p.m. Some big storms are going to fire east of Lubbock, west of Abilene, and mainly north of Interstate 20, producing very large hail, damaging winds, and an isolated tornado threat. Then, as we approach 4 to 5 p.m., the supercell risk increases across the Midwest, specifically just north of St. Louis and then over near Warsaw, just north of Madison, Wisconsin. This is going to be happening right around rush hour, and if you are driving home in that corridor on Tuesday afternoon, you need to be paying very close attention. The scenario I am watching most closely on Tuesday is discrete supercells firing along the dry line from Wichita Falls back through Lockhart and Abilene in Texas, while simultaneously storms develop along the warm front in the Midwest. If both of those happen simultaneously, you have a very widespread and serious severe weather outbreak across an enormous corridor. By 7 to 8 p.m., a lot of these storms will be going up north of St. Louis, back toward Milwaukee and Green Bay with damaging winds, very large hail, and tornadoes all on the table. Then through the evening hours, those storms roll across central Michigan towards Detroit, and even near Fort Wayne, Indiana, before convection begins to wind down overnight into early Wednesday morning. The key question mark on Tuesday that I want to be transparent about is what happens on Monday. Tuesday's setup is heavily dependent on how Monday plays out. If Monday's storms are very active and consume a lot of the instability and moisture, Tuesday inherits a fully loaded atmosphere, and that is when this event has the potential to become truly significant. That dependency between days is part of what makes this week so complicated to forecast, and part of why the storm took such a strange turn compared to what models were showing earlier this week. Earlier this week, the models were pointing toward a more straightforward outbreak with a clear peak day. And now we are looking at a multi-day compounding sequence, where each day feeds into the next, and the peak could shift depending on how the atmosphere behaves in the earlier rounds. What I can tell you with confidence is that the wind shear environment on Tuesday is extraordinary. The significant tornado parameter values across the Midwest on Tuesday afternoon are running at levels that historically produce significant tornado events when discrete supercells are present. The atmosphere is not the question mark. The storm initiation timing and mode are the question marks. And that distinction matters enormously for how dangerous Tuesday ultimately becomes. Wednesday also has real potential, and I do not want people to tune out after Tuesday. The European model shows a fairly organized low-pressure system right over Omaha. Nebraska on Wednesday with supercells going up from Texas into Iowa. These storms on Wednesday are not expected to be as discrete as Tuesday, leaning toward a semi-clustered mode, which generally favors widespread damaging winds and large hail over a tornado outbreak. But tornadoes are still on the table, and the coverage of storms on Wednesday is going to be very widespread from Wisconsin all the way down toward Houston. A lot of people who did not see storms on earlier days are going to see significant thunderstorms on Wednesday. Thursday brings a lingering isolated wind and hail threat mainly across Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio as the system exits toward the east. And then, before you even have a chance to catch your breath, Friday is already showing up as another potentially dangerous day of severe weather. I have real confidence that Friday is going to produce significant storms from Iowa into Kansas and even as far south as Oklahoma. All hazards are on the table Friday, and this could easily be another enhanced risk level day. Saturday, that severe weather may continue from Michigan into the Gulf Coast across the deep south. Sunday and Monday are currently looking like potential break days as a large high-pressure system builds in, but right after that window closes, there are signals for severe weather returning again. This is a very active pattern, and it is not resetting anytime soon. The bottom line for this entire stretch is this. Today is uncertain and may end up low impact despite the risk categories on the map. Monday brings more certainty with destructive hail and tornado potential near Minneapolis and Milwaukee. Tuesday is the highest ceiling day of the week with discrete supercell potential and a serious threat from Texas through the Midwest during afternoon rush hour. Wednesday brings widespread storms with a wind and hail focus. Friday arrives as another dangerous day before the brief weekend break. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have the bell icon clicked so you get notified the moment we post updates or go live, because we are going to have daily coverage and multiple live streams with storm chasers in the field through this entire stretch. The honest message I want to leave you with today is this: the strange turn the storm took does not make it less dangerous. In some ways, it makes it more dangerous because the uncertainty about which day peaks and how each day interacts with the next means you cannot pick one day to pay attention to and ignore the rest. You need to be weather aware from today through next weekend. Every day in this pattern has at least some level of threat, and several of them have the potential to be genuinely significant outbreak level events. Know your shelter location before Monday. Have multiple ways to receive warnings. Have a plan for what you will do if a tornado warning is issued for your county during a Tuesday rush hour when you might be away from home. The atmosphere built this setup over the last week, and it is now aimed at the central United States for the better part of 10 days. Your preparation window is right now. Stay safe, stay weather aware, and I will see you in the next update.